Hello and welcome to Shoot the Hostage with me, Dan, and my partner, Sarah. We're a movie podcast who talks about a different film each week based on a theme. We do swear and we do spoil the featured movie, so only ever listen if you've seen the film or you don't care too much about spoilers. If you're a regular listener, you can just skip forward until you hear the intro music because you've heard all of this before. But if you are new to the show and you do enjoy what you hear, there are a couple of things you can do to help support the show. Firstly, make sure that you're subscribed on your podcast player so you get notified when new shows drop on Mondays. You could rate us 5 stars on Spotify, which couldn't be easier. You just hit the star icon below the show's artwork. Or if you have a spare few minutes, we'd love it if you could submit a review wherever you listen. Make sure you come follow us at STH_pod on social media. We are active on Instagram, Threads and TikTok. And lastly, the biggest thing you can do to help is tell a friend about the show. So that's about it. That's enough preamble from me. Over to me and Sarah for this week's episode. I suppose I owe you an apology.
You do.
It's been a pretty crazy season.
Mm-hmm.
My Nicolas Cage season. You always correct me on that. Yeah, I don't know. Like we're covering Pig. If you haven't guessed already, like it's in the description. And it was between this and a few others. Maybe you should have gone for something a bit more upbeat as a final episode because this is a little depressing.
A little depressing. Yeah, you could say that. I mean, I was pretty ruined after we watched it.
Both times,
yeah. This was a second watch for both of us, was it?
Yeah. You blind bought it, didn't you?
I think so, yeah. I think it's one that sort of snuck up on us. I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, I have to buy that.
Yeah. And
yeah, it ruined me. And I had exactly the same experience watching it for a second time. So I don't know, man. I'm going to try really, really hard not to cry in this episode. When I say, like, it fully destroyed me, I'm tearing up now just thinking about it.
Really?
I don't know why. Yeah, this film really, really affects me emotionally.
And I'm the one that loves pigs.
I love pigs too.
But pigs are my favourite animal. Like,
yeah.
If I could just easily have a pet pig, I would do it. No question.
I mean, you can have a pet pig, but easily is maybe not part of that equation.
Easily was the key word in the description. It's 2021. This film, so it's our newest Nicolas Cage movie. Been going in chronological order this time. It was hard to narrow it down to 8. We'll talk about that more in our wrap show, perhaps, over on our Patreon feed.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what didn't make the cut, actually.
Well, everything else
that
he's done.
His entire other filmography.
Yeah, but...
God, that's going to be a long show.
Yeah, we're not going to go for every single one of his movies. Just other ones that I was considering, really.
So what Dan's saying, you're promising to review every single other Nicolas Cage film in the wrap show?
No, but what I am promising is that we'll cover another 8 when we do Nicolas Cage 2.0.
No, look, maybe a decade from now.
A decade from now?
Yeah.
When he's got another 130 movies out.
Yes, exactly. Assuming I live that long.
There'll probably be a The Rock sequel by then.
Probably. Maybe we'll get the Face Off sequel that's been teased for so long.
Yeah, fucking Wingard, pull your finger out, man. What are you doing?
King Kong stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Godzilla stuff.
Well, no, just do Face Off, innit?
Well, I'd rather see that from Adam Wingard, yeah.
I think so. So, yeah, a little bit of a downer to end on, really. But it is a very good movie. So, on the one hand, I'm like, wish I'd chosen Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent or something. On the other hand, it is an excellent movie, and I think there's probably quite a bit to talk about. It's an unusual movie. It was written and directed by Michael Sarnoski.
Sarnoski,
Am I saying that right?
I believe so.
Who, to date, has made 2 features, correct?
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah. Most recently did A Quiet Place Day 1.
Yeah, A Quiet Place Day Cat.
Yeah, he clearly loves animals.
Yeah. So this would have been his first feature then, I guess. And
which is wild.
It's impressive. He's obviously done a few shorts before that. I was looking on Letterboxd earlier. But wrote and directed this one. I'm guessing having Nicolas Cage on board as with a lot of these indie films, you get your star on board. That it's often the thing that gives a project momentum, and people start to come on board and finance the project. I imagine this probably was the case. I don't know if you've seen anything or read anything that backs it up, or...
I couldn't find a huge amount of information out there, to be honest. I know the budget was very low, but I couldn't find an exact figure.
Okay.
But there were budgetary constraints. So I imagine this is probably something that Nic Cage did for a lower fee. I would hazard a guess that he's the sort of actor who does stuff for the love of it rather than just to pay bills these days anyway.
Yeah.
I think that we've talked about his bill paying era.
Yeah, we have in great detail. But yeah, I can't imagine the budget for this was huge. I do know that it was a 20-day shoot, which is ridiculous, in Oregon. And yeah, so the budget wouldn't have been terribly high. I'm sure his fee was relatively low. And it's not a huge cast either. It's Nicolas Cage, it's Scott Wolf.
Scott Wolf? From Party of Five?
Scott Wolf from Go, not that guy. Alex Wolf.
Yeah.
From who's in Hereditary and the Jungle one. What's the Jungle one? Jumanji.
Jungle. Right, yeah.
Jumanji, he was in that. Isn't he?
He was also in A Quiet Place Day One.
Was he?
He was.
I've seen that movie.
Quite recently.
I'm sure. Yeah, you're correct. I believe you.
I'm out of the two of us, I'm not the one with face blindness, so.
Or a terrible memory. I was just looking up on Letterboxd. He was also in Oppenheimer, along with everybody else.
Yeah, every other white male actor in Hollywood.
Yeah, that's right. Old. He was in Old, that M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah.
Thoroughbreds.
Was he?
Yeah, apparently so.
See, I don't remember him in that.
Yeah.
I quite like that film as well.
But quite a few movies, and good in this. I liked his character in this, or sort of grew to like his character rather, and that's one of the strengths I think that maybe we'll come back to, the characterizations in this. Adam Arkin, baby Arkin.
You don't see crop up that often anymore.
I don't think I've ever seen him. I must have seen him before in other stuff, but I didn't recognise him. I looked on Letterboxd, saw Adam Arkin. I went, I wonder if he's related to Alan Arkin. You know the answer to this. Obviously, he is.
He's a Nepo baby.
Yeah, who isn't Nepo baby?
Well, he's a Nepo old man.
Yeah. There's maybe Alex Wolff is Scott Wolf's kid.
I don't think so.
No, okay.
I'd be very surprised. The last thing I remember seeing Adam Arkin in might have been like Halloween H2O, like 25 years ago.
Oh, yeah, that memorable movie.
Yeah. Or H20. I'll be crucified by the horror fans. It's H20 because it's 20 years after the...
Yeah,
never mind.
What is that about? Like wasn't it marketed as H2O?
I remember that, yeah.
Halloween water.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Because it sounds cool.
Apparently.
Is that the one where Coolio kicked someone in the head?
No, that was Halloween Resurrection. Was it Coolio?
No, it was Busta Rhymes.
It was Busta Rhymes, yeah. That was Halloween Resurrection. That was terrible.
Yeah. Have I seen that? Probably. Who cares? But Busta Rhymes isn't in this movie. It would have been a strange movie if he was.
It would.
Although I do know where I would have put him.
Maybe we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
One thing I think it's important to say about this film early on is I think some of the marketing, from memory anyway, I think some of the marketing maybe did it a bit of a disservice because a lot of people, myself included, were kind of under the impression that this was going to be some sort of John Wick style revenge movie where, you know, guy with a past, ambiguous history, you know, has animal taken from him and then seeks revenge. That's kind of how it was sold. I don't know if you remember.
I don't remember specifically, but I do remember having the expectation that this is probably going to be an action movie where Nicolas Cage does a big revenge for someone taking his pig.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that at all. So
it's kind of an anti-revenge movie, if anything.
Yeah. And I think on the one hand, you're right. It did do it a disservice, marketing it that way. On the other hand, I kind of love it. Like I can understand people going in expecting that and wanting that and not getting what they wanted from this movie. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's probably not the greatest decision on that basis, But for me personally, I was going in expecting that, got something completely different, and was really pleasantly surprised, because those types of action movies, there are good ones, there are bad ones, but they're all the same pretty much. John Wick is above a lot of movies because of the technique and the commitment to the stunts and all of that stuff. It does sit above many of those types of revenge movies, and they have their place and they're fun. But beat for beat, you know what's going to happen.
But I think that sort of informed a lot of people's experience with this film, because we're so used to those tropes, because they've been done to death. I think a lot of people went in expecting exactly that.
Me included. But I was just happy to be wrong-footed. Is that the right term? I don't know.
I guess so, yeah. It did sort of pull the rug out from under some audience members.
Obviously, we watch a lot of movies, so you kind of often know how things are going to play out. And I didn't know how this was going to play out at all. Now, sticking on the comparisons to your bog standard action revenge flick, I do think that this plays with the tropes of those types of movies as well. It's kind of structured like one of those movies in a way, but it does it differently. And that's what I love, because I remember watching it the first time going, this is the bit where he's going to meet the first baddies, build his way up to the big baddies. And he sort of does do that.
Yeah.
But not in the way that you expect. And it's certainly not an action movie. And I respect it so much for that. I think it's an anti-revenge action movie.
Yeah.
But using the same sort of structure. I think it's pretty genius, really.
No, I agree. I just think the marketing maybe did the film a little bit dirty, maybe.
I mean, it's mis-selling it, isn't it, really, to a degree. So, I can understand someone going in wanting that type of thing, not getting it and being pissed. I totally understand that. And I think that's, perfectly reasonable reaction to that. I just was happy to be fucked with. I was happy that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and it was something completely different. It's not like really anything I'd seen before, but using those kind of tropes and techniques that you often get in those types of movies to sort of send you down a wrong path. And it's just really well done, I thought.
Yeah, I think it's a rare movie that affects me quite on the level that this did. Like, I was reading articles about the movie earlier and I got tears in my eyes.
Did you?
It's incredible, the lasting impression that this movie's had on me. That's so rare. There is something really special about it.
Yeah, it's unlike anything else.
It's very quiet and like contemplative, and you're right in saying that it does sort of follow the same beats as a lot of revenge movies, but I don't know, kind of deconstructs them in a way, which is interesting because the topic of deconstruction comes up a few times in the film as well.
Oh, interesting.
So I'd be surprised if that wasn't intentional.
I think it absolutely was intentional. I think this film is very intentional, like throughout. I think it knows exactly what it's doing. I think it knows exactly what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it plays with those things.
It must have been a strong script from the word go as well, because I know Nic Cage was pretty adamant about coming on the project quite early.
Yes, I heard that he wanted to play the pig, though, originally.
He could have done. We've already discussed his range, so yeah, he could have played the pig successfully.
I'd buy that for $1.
But yeah, I think in his mind, I think especially after Mandy, which we talked about last week, this was kind of his return to proper acting, to kind of prove that he could do a realistic portrayal of somebody rather than more of a caricature, a la Where We Started, which was like Vampire's Kiss, maybe.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, that's one of the reasons why this season has been such a journey, which is reflected in Cage's own career. It's you've got these ups and these downs and these big performances and these more subtle performances like this. I think this is a really good example of, maybe the best example of a really subtle and thoughtful Nicolas Cage performance. Like, we've spoken about it many times in the season where he gets criticised for being too large and an over-actor, and some people would have seen maybe a couple of his movies and gone and say he's a bad actor. They're wrong, because he's an amazing actor. And I think something like this just proves that point. And he knows when to do the thing more often than not. It, like we said before, doesn't always land his performances. He takes big swings and it doesn't always work, but I think he knows for the most part where to be large and where to be more subtle.
Yeah, I mean, prior to this season, back when I knew very little about the man himself, I was always adamant that he's a really good actor when he wants to be.
Mm.
And I think that's sort of the key. I think maybe when he connects to the material or when he feels like he can collaborate with the director, you can tell when he's invested, I think.
Mm.
And never more so than here. He's heartbreaking. There are so many moments during this film where, oh God, I just wanted to give the man a hug. I'd maybe ask him to have a shower first.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, maybe have a shave and clean your top that presumably used to be white.
Oh God, don't. Although having said that, that is kind of one of the things that I love about this movie is that unlike a lot of revenge movies, you have that sort of tooling up scene. Like, obviously, to go back to John Wick, you know, he puts on the suit and...
Yeah, he digs up that safe, doesn't he?
Yeah.
In the first one, yeah.
Takes the sledgehammer to the floor. We don't have that in this, which I love because his priority is literally just getting his pig back.
Mm.
I love it. I love it. But anyway, to go back to the start, this film is in 3 chapters, much like Mandy.
Mm.
How strange. And in this one, the chapters are sort of titled after dishes.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that, actually. Yeah.
I wrote them down
All right,
if you're interested.
What you got?
So there's part 1, which is Rustic Mushroom Tart.
Is that what he's making in that pan?
I believe so. Yeah, we should give some to the pig.
Yeah.
I love her.
The Last Supper.
Oh, don't.
Sorry.
Stop it. That's... no. It's too soon, Dan. Part 2 is Mum's French toast and deconstructed scallops.
Presumably with stale bread.
He says that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, I didn't. I was never aware. And part 3, a bird, a bottle, and a salted baguette.
All meals that he eats.
That he eats and cooks, right?
He doesn't.
Or is the middle one the one at the restaurant?
I believe that's the one at the restaurant because that's when he says you're supposed to use stale bread. Right,
and that's when he has the conversation with the guy that he used to know about. His whole restaurant is about deconstructing popular dishes, isn't it? Mm. And in doing so, he sort of deconstructs the man's reality. Yeah. He has a little mini breakdown at the table. I love that scene. But yeah, it's an interesting choice. I wonder why that's become a thing. I feel like The Colour Out of Space did that as well. Maybe they were Nicolas Cage's suggestions.
Yeah, perhaps.
Maybe he was just like, chapters. I'm really into chapters at the moment.
Yeah. So going to the beginning of the movie then, it begins with Cage living in the forest with the pig and they're looking for truffles. And it's the first maybe 10 or 15 minutes. It's just those two just milling about in the forest.
I would happily have watched that for an hour and a half. I'm not going to lie.
All right. I don't know if I could. I was getting ready for things to happen, to be honest.
I was digging that. That pig was so cute.
Do you know what the pig was called?
No. Do you?
No idea.
Oh. I do know that because the budget was so low, as I mentioned earlier, they could not afford a fully trained pig. So they just had to hire a regular pig. And because of that, and because of the shoot schedule being only 20 days, it kept biting Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
And after one particularly nasty bite, he was sort of joking about the things that have happened to him on sets, like, oh, he's been lit on fire, all these things have happened. He was like, but I'm going to die of sepsis from a pig bite, aren't I?
Well, he wasn't actually on fire for Ghost Rider, was he?
Yeah, there was no CGI.
That's impressive.
And at the end of Wicker Man.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so not a show pig.
Oh, interesting. Yes, it is amazing that they managed to get any footage at all with an untrained pig.
I know, it was so good though.
So they just found like a pig just milling about in the forest and went, "Yeah, do you want to be in a movie, pig?"
Oh, well,
like, yeah.
I don't think there was a conversation. I assume
pigs are very clever. You don't know that.
They are very clever. Yeah, they're sort of similar to dogs in intelligence, I believe.
Yeah, possibly.
Your favourite animal. You should know this.
Well, I'm not a pig expert. I just like them. All right.
Interestingly, pigs aren't always used for truffle hunting. Dogs tend to be preferred these days. because they're easier to train not to eat the truffles.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And apparently in some parts of the world, it's actually illegal to use pigs for truffle hunting.
Ooh.
But I do know, because I was so interested as to why somebody would steal a truffle pig. Obviously, the answer's always going to be money. Whenever anything nefarious happens, the answer's always money, right? But I didn't realise they go for about 25 grand.
What,
a trained truffle pig.
Okay, a truffle's expensive then?
I think so, yeah.
Because they're sort of... I got the impression from this movie they're like a luxury item.
They're a delicacy, yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, you can buy a pack of truffle crisps for £1. Like, I don't know, like what?
Is there actual truffle? Or is it truffle flavouring, though?
That's a good point. I don't know. All these questions I don't know the answer to.
Well, I mean, in a film about food, well, that's one of the themes.
Mm.
We should really have the answers. But yeah, so 25 grand, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because I did wonder, like, what was it? Was it sort of a theft for the long game? Like, just so they could get their own truffles, or was the intent to sell the pig? I'm still kind of unclear on that.
What, the people that robbed the pig?
Yeah.
Has the pig got a name in the movie? Is it just pig?
It's just pig.
So, well, yeah, for money. Because they saw Cage's like business or whatever, and I suppose they wanted in on it. But he's trading truffles for like tins of beans or something, isn't he? So yeah, he's not really... He's
just funding his very, very basic lifestyle.
Yeah.
Which I can get behind. Let's go back to a barter system.
Yeah, but I don't really want to live in a forest without the internet.
I wouldn't mind.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
One frying pan and some cassette tapes. No, thank you. Bored. I'm bored thinking about it.
You would be there for 2 minutes. An estimate
that long
of 2 minutes before you went, I'm bored, now what? I guarantee it.
Yeah, I'd get bored on the walk to the forest.
So this is not the lifestyle for you?
No.
Even though it comes with a pig?
No.
No? Still no?
I'll go and visit the pig, but I don't want to live in the forest.
Fair enough. Well, you can visit me and the pig when I move out into the forest.
I'll have your truffles. If you're going truffle hunting, I'll have stuff. I'll take some truffles off your hands.
Okay. Only if you bring me fried egg crisps as a swap.
Yeah, we can do that. We can trade.
All right. Okay. So this sort of leads to a really, really harrowing scene where people, we don't really see them, sort of shadowy figures break into his cabin.
Yeah, you don't figure out who they are until later in the movie.
Yeah. They knock him out and they steal the pig. And oh my God, the pig's screams will haunt me forever. I really, really hope that was like ADR, pig ADR, and that wasn't, I don't know. It was horrifying. Do you not think?
It was unpleasant. Yeah, I didn't enjoy hearing those sounds. It was definitely there's no way that they tortured a pig to get those sounds.
No, I know. You're not allowed anymore.
No,
this isn't the 80s.
Even though they were probably all tucking into bacon sandwiches in the catering, no animals were harmed during the making of this movie unless they were in bacon sandwiches.
So funnily enough, it's interesting that you should say that. Michael Sarnoski did try to implement a no pork product rule on set.
Oh, but the fucking electricians kicked off, didn't they?
But he didn't win. Yeah. He didn't win that one, sadly.
We were saying earlier about how it sort of follows a lot of the tropes of a revenge movie, of an action movie. I think one of the best examples of that is when he sort of enlists, is it Amir, who Alex Wolff's character name? He enlists him to help him find his pig.
Mm-hmm. And his douchebag car.
Which I love, unfortunately. But yeah, yellow Camaro. And they go to some sort of chef fight club situation.
Some sort of weird underground bum fights speakeasy. It's very strange.
What's a bum fight?
Oh, were you not on the internet in the early 2000s?
No.
Probably for the best.
No,
it was disgusting. It was gross. Okay. It was like people would make videos of just them offering homeless people money to fight each other.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, awful.
Oh, right, okay. Now I'm getting it. I've not heard of it, but now I'm getting it.
Right. I think it was mostly an American thing, but fully degenerate.
That makes sense.
Horrible.
Yeah. But there's this weird sort of Fight Club situation. And I remember the first time that we watched it, and it led to that point, and I'm sort of going, okay, here we go. This is going to be the bit where he pulls out his spinny knives, or he just does some kung fu at someone or whatever. But no, he just takes a beating. And you get the sense that the people that are beating on him know him and really want to do this, and have really wanted to do this for a long time.
Well, he wrote his name on the wall, didn't they? And there were some sort of like gasps of recognition.
Yeah.
And the guy who was punching him seemed really reluctant to do it at first.
Yeah.
Before super getting into it.
I got the impression that he was perhaps afraid of him.
Yeah.
To some degree. But yeah, obviously really wanted to do that, because really gets into it, and then they have to pull him away. But when the timer runs out, the bloke who's managing it all is like, no, let's see how this plays out. And they all seem to want to see him get beaten up quite a bit. And it just gives you a lot of backstory without really saying it, without really telling you much, like telling you. It's showing you all of these characters and how they're reacting to him. It's really good storytelling, I think.
No, I agree. And to be honest, if I hadn't watched 2 seasons of The Bear, that scene might make less sense to me. But knowing how intense that world of like Michelin-starred restaurants and, you know, best chefs in the world is, that kind of makes more sense to me. Because yes, he obviously was really renowned in his profession at one point, but that also probably meant he was a dick to a lot of people. Like a bit of a ball buster, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen The Bear, but I know that chefs are twats. Like we've all seen Gordon Ramsay throwing a frying pan at someone because their spaghetti's not al dente or whatever. You know, he goes.
What are you? An idiot sandwich?
Yeah. That's a meme, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've heard of that one.
Yeah, he's probably the best example of that.
I couldn't name you another chef. Anthony Worrell Thompson.
Yeah, there you go. That's 2.
Yeah. Ainsley Harriott. That's another one. He seems nice though, unless he's not. Who else is a chef? No, that's it, I think.
There aren't a huge number of like celebrity chefs, I don't think.
There were. I feel like in the 90s, you couldn't fucking move without seeing a ready, steady cook or a can't cook, won't cook. It's like, yeah, but you're cooking though, aren't you?
Was Lloyd Grossman a chef type person?
Yeah, probably.
Before he did Through the Keyhole.
Yeah. I think he lived in the Keyhole, didn't he? And he was the chef in the Keyhole. I don't know.
That's not the show I remember.
That was weird. Is that the one where they went to a house and you had to guess whose house it is from the stuff that they owned?
Maybe. It was sort of the precursor to MTV's Cribs.
I suppose you're not guessing though. You know immediately whose house it is, because they're like, yeah,
this is all my stuff.
Yeah, I'm Chesney Hawk. Welcome to my crib.
Chesney Hawks.
Yeah, I couldn't think of a more contemporary name.
Nobody's thought about Chesney Hawks in 35 years, apart from you.
He's the one and only.
Apparently, yeah.
Maybe he's a celebrity chef now and we don't know about it.
When he said, I am the one and only, he was referring to Hit. That was his one and only hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do really enjoy that scene, though, for the reasons that you've said.
But that, like I say, that was the part in the movie where I thought we were going to do a sharp left turn into a proper action movie. And you would think that I would be disappointed in that. And perhaps I was a little bit. But as the movie went on and we got more context, more of a story unfolded, I really started to respect it playing with those expectations and the way it wanted me to think that's what it was doing. When in reality, it was kind of doing the exact opposite of that. Like, everyone watches a action revenge movie. Let's have some popcorn. Let's watch people, snap people's arms in half or whatever and pull a leg off and throw it into traffic. And that's what you come to expect from these things. Those exact examples, only those 2 examples.
Specifically those 2 things,
But what I thought was really clever about it is that it does the opposite, in that he's not going around kicking people to death. He's either taking a beating, he is having that conversation with the chef that we mentioned where he's deconstructing.
Just eviscerating him verbally.
Yeah, but like getting to the core of the man. And not in a...
Yeah, it wasn't spiteful.
Not in a spiteful way. It's like he's like, is this what you want to do? Really? And like, because you said that you wanted to open a pub. It's like he's trying to reach into the soul of these people and get to the real like nugget of human aspects of them, but he's doing it kind of with love, and that is no more apparent than in the final act of the movie, which perhaps we'll get to, where he's having a conversation with Adam Arkin. And
oh, we definitely will.
Like we'll get to that point. Like you expect it to, if you're thinking it's an action movie, you're expecting it to go a certain way, and it doesn't. And he's just cooking, and he's putting all of his love and his effort into cooking and meals, and that's, I don't know, I think that's a really clever way of approaching a project, I think. And it's super hard to do an original movie these days. Like everything's been done. I don't think there's anything really quite like this.
To me, this felt like, I don't know where Michael Sarnoski is from. I don't know if he's American. I assume he's American. But this to me felt like it should have had subtitles.
In the best possible way.
Yeah, absolutely. I did read somewhere that it was originally supposed to be set maybe in France or Italy or Spain or somewhere. But that didn't end up happening for whatever reason. I don't know. But that wouldn't have surprised me, especially just sort of in that world of gourmet cooking. I kind of associate that with those countries more than I do with America, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, America, you get some squirty cheese on some stale bread and a massive fucking turkey leg for no reason. It's food in America. I'm sorry, it's terrible.
Which is interesting because they think our food is terrible.
Yeah, well, each to their own, I guess.
But going back to that scene in the restaurant where he's kind of, you said he's kind of saying that with love. Do you think that's true?
I do, yeah. Because
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Why not?
I don't think it's coming from a spiteful or a negative place, but I don't know if I would go as far as to say it's done with love. I think it's just done with honesty, and it's done ultimately to kind of serve his own ends because his singular focus is to get his pig back. And he knows that this is potentially a route that he can take to do that. I don't think it's sort of, I'm going to break this man and then rebuild him with love. I think it's just honesty. I think it's brutal honesty.
But I kind of see it as more of a tough love situation. You have to be brutally honest. You can't sugarcoat things in many situations. I feel like sometimes if people are living a lie like that, he's kind of living the life that everyone expects from him, what the critics want. You know, the fucking bullshit about deconstructing dishes and the whole theme of this movie about how to consume art and being told how to consume art and what's good and what's bad. I mean, in reality, it's you should just do what you love, and that's that's it. There's nothing more to it than that. So I feel like Cage is trying to get to the heart of his character. Yes, he does want to find his pig, and that's definitely something, but I feel like as well that he just wants everyone to start living more authentically for their own good. Strip
away the bullshit.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I mean when I say he's doing it from a place of love. Not that necessarily I don't think he's particularly concerned about hurting people's feelings, but he wants people to be more genuine. And I think he probably sort of gave up on that and went to live in the forest for 15 years, and now he's back in the city and he's seeing all of this stuff going on. He's just like, why are you guys living like this? Like, come on, be true, be honest with yourselves. This is not what you want to do. You want to do this. And he says to him, what was it that you wanted to do all those years ago? I wanted to open a pub. Well, why didn't you do that? And he just breaks. I know it's difficult in that moment, but I feel like ultimately that chef is now going to probably quit his job and try and do something that he loves, whether it's successful financially, however you measure success.
No matter how many stars you're awarded.
Yeah, it's bullshit. And he figured that out a long time ago, I think. And that's another thing that I love about this film, is that it is one of the themes of it is mentioned about how you consume art. And like the art in this case is cooking and how you prepare a meal and how you enjoy it, and the kind of a two fingers up to the critics, because all this Michelin star bollocks, you know, people go to a restaurant and they get a tiny pea on a plate and you squeeze the pea and then they're like, 500 quid please for that pea. And you go out and get some nuggets from McDonald's to fill yourself up. It's bollocks, and people fall for it. And I think that he's figured that out. You know, it's not to say that you shouldn't pay good money for good food, but I don't know. I find that whole thing really odd. That whole, I'm not a master chef person. I can't stand it. You have they're so pretentious. They put a spoon of food in their mouth and they're like, yeah, I'm getting flavors of like the slates, like the white rocks of Dover, and it makes me think of seagulls doing their crap on a homeless person. I don't just these weird fucking phrases and things that people come out with. It's absolute bollocks. It's meaningless. Do you like it? Yeah. Okay.
Well,
is it sustenance? Yes.
you view food in a different way to a lot of people.
I like food.
But I know you like food, but as you've just sort of demonstrated, I don't know. Not that I have any sort of sophisticated palate. Let me point that out now. I do not. But I do think cooking is an art form.
I 100% agree.
But I also think that there is a tendency to overcomplicate things and to try and search for innovation and perfection when just really good is brilliant.
Really good is enough. And
it's not only enough, it's brilliant. Really good.
Yeah, but it's like...
But you have to want to be the best.
But when it comes to art, there's really like... It's difficult. Obviously, we're on a podcast and we talk about movies and, I don't necessarily think that there's such thing as... Terminator 2 is a perfect movie. Speed is a perfect movie. To me, but somebody else is going to watch it and go, oh, they're rubbish or whatever. There's no such thing really as perfect art because it's all subjective.
Well, yeah, it's in the eye of the beholder. So absolutely. Some people like Terrifier, for example.
So if you're striving for perfection when it comes to art, you're never going to win because there's always going to be someone that doesn't like what you're doing. So what's the point? Just make what you want to make.
Yeah.
And enjoy that. Don't worry about what the critics are saying. Don't worry about what fucking the twat from MasterChef, Greg, whatever his name is.
Greg Wallace.
That. Who fucking gives a shit what Greg Wallace thinks for a start?
Well, he's disgraced at the moment anyway.
Yeah. But he should have been disgraced before. It's like, it's the thing that drives me mad is the pretentiousness of art. The people that just really want to, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's a bit of I feel like a lot of times it comes down to ego. Like, when you're sitting at a restaurant and the waiter will pour wine into your glass and you're supposed to do that little thing where you fucking spin it around, you taste it and you go, oh yeah, that's good.
That tastes like wine.
I don't know. You do the little dance because you have to, but I don't fucking know. Why are we doing this? It's pointless.
Well, I got super into coffee during lockdown and I started ordering different coffees online, and there was always like the flavor profile of like grapefruit and hazelnut and chocolate. And I'm just like, it tastes like coffee.
It's coffee.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
It's not like, but I'm not like against descriptors. And,
no, of course not.
Like,
and if that brings you pleasure, have at it. You're not harming anybody.
100%.
But it's the superiority complex that's attached to it.
Yeah.
Oh, you drink Nescafe, so you're worse than me.
Yeah. You can only drink a cab sav from the year 5000 BC or whatever. It's that. Are you enjoying your £4 bottle of wine from Aldi? Yes. Good.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And there's nothing more to it.
Yeah. You might have more of a headache in the morning than the person drinking the 45 bottle of wine. But, each to their own.
Yeah. But it's that kind of the superiority of judging art and thinking that you are the be all and end all, like what you say goes. And the pretentiousness of the phrases. And I just think it's so dumb.
It's pompous, I will say that. But again, I don't know. Whatever brings you pleasure is fine as long as it's not illegal. I think it's always important to point out.
My wording would be immoral.
Okay, fair. Yeah, all right.
Let's not dive into that any further.
But sort of bringing it back to movies, it's kind of akin to those people who, if you don't like a highbrow movie, they say, well, you just didn't get it then.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as that to me.
That's kind of exactly what I'm talking about. Like, I enjoy our discussions that we have about films. Don't in any way think that we're critics. We just have a chat about a film, whether we liked it or we didn't like it, and we try to figure out why those things might be true for us. But it's Gordon Ramsay going, your fucking pasta is shit, and I think that you should close. I think it's really damaging for one thing.
Yeah.
Potentially for people to try and strive for this perfection and never reach it because it's impossible.
Well, it's why I always had beef with people like Roger Ebert, because he wasn't a filmmaker, but he would sit there and write off entire genres of films because he didn't like them. Yeah, you're maybe an expert in your field and you can talk about technically what was good and bad, but you can't talk about, oh, this film was bad, therefore it shouldn't resonate with anyone.
Yeah.
And I know we joke a lot on this podcast, like, oh, if you didn't like that, your opinion's wrong. But it is a joke. It's always a joke.
Of course it is.
I like some absolute garbage.
Yeah, and we'll probably dig into that a bit more next season.
Topical. But getting back to that scene after that detour.
That was quite a detour, yeah.
This feels like therapy. I feel like we both needed to have that conversation somehow.
Yeah.
I feel a bit lighter now.
I think that's been kind of bubbling away in my subconscious maybe for the past week or so. And one of the things that I really sort of got from this movie, particularly second time watching it, I think it hates critics.
I wouldn't go that far, but I think it's definitely got something to say about critics, yeah.
Yeah. I think it has a lot to say about critics, and I think it has a lot to say about
food.
Food, yeah. About how you shouldn't be told how to consume the art. Obviously, that we've got Alex Wolff, Amir in his yellow Camaro, and he's listening to classical music. But the classical music has a voiceover that's telling him what's great about classical music.
This is why this is good.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it is good, but just enjoy it. Don't, like, he's trying to figure out why it's good so that he can explain to other people why it's good.
Yeah, because
it's pointless. Because
there's this connection to having money and being of a certain status and having taste.
Yeah. And it links to the wine as well.
Yeah.
Exactly the same sort of thing. I listen to classical music occasionally. I don't fucking know why.
It's
but
usually
it's
Hans Zimmer.
It's usually Hans Zimmer. It's usually the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack. Yeah. It's always Hans Zimmer. It's not usually Hans Zimmer. It's only... What movie were we watching the other day that had Adam Mozart in it and you loved it?
This.
Oh, it was this?
It was this.
Oh,
it's my favourite piece of Mozart music,
yeah.
It's in a bunch of movies. It's also in Lords of Salem. That's, for some reason, the thing I take away from that movie.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point.
But going back to that scene, so the as you sort of said, this is quite an intricately put together film. You didn't phrase it quite like that, but like...
No, you're way more articulate like that. I'm like, fucking good, this.
But the name of the restaurant that they're in is Eurydice. And I recognise the word from, I think it's Greek mythology. And I was just like, well, that obviously means something, you know? This isn't a film where anything's just for the sake of it. It's not just thrown in there. So I was sort of somewhat familiar with the story of Eurydice, but ultimately it's kind of, the message of that is to not look back, which I think is ultimately the theme of this film. Because obviously Eurydice was the wife of Orpheus.
Lawrence Fishburne.
Orpheus.
Okay.
She was coveted and pursued by Aristaeus, but she died from a poisonous snake bite.
Nasty.
Yeah. But Orpheus was so heartbroken, he tried to retrieve her from the underworld. And the one sort of stipulation to be able to bring her back to life was to not look back at her as they were journeying out from the underworld. But he couldn't resist. He looked back. And that was it. She went back to the underworld.
Right.
But I like to put a happy spin on this film. Ultimately, the story ends in that they were reunited in death.
Okay.
I don't necessarily believe in an afterlife, but in the context of this film, I would quite like to believe that Nicolas Cage was reunited with Pig in death.
Yeah, with Pig. And he's... Is this a dead wife situation again?
Yeah, I believe it's a dead wife situation, yeah.
Yeah, they don't really go into it.
No, because it's a really economical script.
Yeah.
Although having said that, I did read online that this film was originally an hour longer.
Okay.
Which, wow. I would quite like to watch that cut of it, although I do think the film is perfect as it is.
I think it might be a bit much. The fact that this is a 92-minute movie, I think really works for it. It's really economical. I think maybe it's outstaying its welcome if it's 2.5 hours. I think that's too much.
I would still like the option of a director's cut.
I think I would be curious just from a perspective of comparing the two. What works about the 90-minute version versus the 2.5 hour version. More is not always better. True.
But I'm quite confident in Michael Sarnoski's vision. So I'm just interested to see what was taken out. But yeah, ultimately it was the distributor that said it was boring.
Was it Neon?
It was Neon, yeah. Neon are kind of overtaking A24 for me as being like the most exciting distributor at the moment.
I don't know, A24 are still pretty strong, aren't they?
Oh, they're still up there, yeah, of course. They've got a great track record, but Neon are pretty exciting, I think. But yeah, they said it was too long, too boring. TLDR, cut some stuff out. And then that's the version that we got.
Right. I do think that this version really does work very well. Like I say, I think any more than 90 minutes, I think we're sticking around too long for this. This is a kind of a difficult movie to watch thematically. It's very quiet in places. It's very thoughtful. It's very soft in places and brutal in other places. And I think any more than 90 minutes, I don't know if I'm sitting through it. I'll be honest.
That's fair.
I do think it's a good movie, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to see a longer version. I think 90 minutes is perfect for this.
But you do want to see a longer version of the Wicker Man remake.
Yeah.
Let that sink in, viewer.
And
listener.
The Chronicles of
viewer.
Riddick.
And the Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah, apparently there's a longer version of that I need to see.
No, it's awful. Maybe the longer version's better.
That's my point.
Maybe they removed the sexism, the misogyny, and the homophobia in that version.
No, Vin Diesel's still in it.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll watch it because Katie Sackhoff's in it, but still.
Yeah, and Carl Urban, and Colin Feore, and Keith David.
One of the columns.
Column.
Yeah, so we're kind of getting to the end of the film now. And as you quite rightly pointed out, it's sort of the showdown, or what would be the showdown.
Yeah.
The boss level.
Yeah, the boss level. Like in those action movies, you kind of work and you start with the muscle and you kind of work your way up. We spoke about perhaps a similar thing in the Mandy show last week. Not going to spoil that in case you haven't seen the movie or listened to the show. But yeah, in your traditional action movie, you're starting off with your Alfie Allens and you're building up to like the boss that was in that movie. Who's the guy? Storm Air.
No, it's not Storm Air.
No, he's in 2, but you get the point.
Yeah. The guy that's not Storm Air. Wasn't it the guy from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo?
James Bond.
What?
Daniel.
Not the remake, the original.
What's he called?
Not the Fincher version.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen
anyway.
it. I don't care. Sorry. The final part of the movie.
Yeah, so he sort of gives Amir a list of things. And even that plays out like a tooling up sort of revenge kind of thing. Like, because we don't see what he's asking him to get. He just gives him a list and says, can you get me this stuff? And you're thinking, oh, now it's going to kick off.
But instead of an AK-47, it's a baguette.
Yeah, and a bottle of wine.
Yeah. But he goes to get the baguette himself, doesn't he? From what I presume is it the sister of his wife?
Unclear.
Perhaps? I get the impression that maybe she was his sister, and there's some history there.
Yeah, it was definitely somebody who knew the both of them.
Yeah, I think so, because he says, was it Charlotte or whatever his wife was called? She always said that you should take the blinds down, and she took the blinds down, the curtains down, and he said, yeah, it's better this way. There's that history there.
Yeah,
it's kind of the perfect thing that we always say. The conversation is about something else, but it gives you all the information that you need in this specific example, and a world of character as well, and past, and that really adds to the texture of the film and the characterization.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's where he picks up the bread. He gets a big bread.
Big bread,
He gets
yeah.
a big stale
Big
bread.
salty bread.
Big salty baguette. That's where we
Yeah.
are, isn't it?
And he goes to Adam Arkin's house.
Yeah.
So he's already asked Adam Arkin for his pig back at this point because I can't remember exactly. Was it Amir who sort of let slip, or did he put it together that it was Adam Arkin's character that was kind of behind the whole thing?
I forget the exact details of it, but he does go to Adam Arkin's gaff, and he asks him about the pig, and I think he says like he basically admits to having organised the pig to be taken.
Yeah.
But that's all the information that he gives him. He's just like, move on. I'm going to give you 25 grand. Shut up. Go away. And what I love as well is that they really set up that character as this like big boss. And it's unusual, isn't it? Because you think about it for a second. All of these people are like set up to be, you're meant to maybe be fearing these people, but really, what? Who are they? They're a chef.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Ainsley Harriott.
Good with knives, though.
Well, yeah, there is that. But yeah, he'd already gone to Arkin's place, and they'd had that conversation, and then he goes away and that's where he goes to get his ingredients, because they had that conversation earlier, Amir, and I'm sure that was in the back of Nicolas Cage's mind, where Amir was saying that the only time I can remember my parents enjoying themselves was after they'd eaten a meal together. And that's kind of bubbling away in the background. And then that's where Robin says, okay, go away and get me this food. I'm going to come back. I'm going to cook a meal for Darius, which is Adam Arkin's character. And again, like trying to elicit a response, get some truth out of him, but via doing something for him, via a love in a way, by preparing a meal that he knows that he loved. And that Darius character we learn that he's been trying to block out those kind of feelings that he had for his wife. That's a mysterious kind of situation there.
Yeah, I mean, the whole film is basically about not dealing with grief, isn't it? Ultimately, that to me is the biggest theme.
Yeah, it's about loss and grief and how to deal with it, and deal with it.
You have to tackle it head on. You can't keep pushing it down. Get some therapy, boys. Get some therapy.
That was the working title of this when they were shooting it. Get some therapy, boys.
Oh, I thought it was Cage, Pig in the City.
That's going in the description.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a moment where Darius turns to him and says, "Just get yourself a new pig."
Yeah.
And the way he delivers that line, I don't know what it was exactly about it, but has the exact same energy as "Get a New President" from Escape from New York.
Yeah.
You hate him in that moment, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, he cooks him this meal because as he says, he remembers everybody he ever cooked a meal for.
Yeah.
So he knows just what to make to get to him, to trigger that. He's kind of using food as like this transcendental experience to trigger memory, I guess. And it works because Darius kind of ends up breaking down. Yeah,
he absolutely does. But you get all of that from the previous conversations that the characters have had in the film. And again, like I say, you're expecting this kind of weird showdown, but what you get is just Nicolas Cage cooking some food. And then them sitting down and eating together. And like on one hand, I'm like, is anyone going to shoot anyone in this movie?
There hasn't even been one explosion.
Not one. But on the other hand, I'm like, I kind of respect you for this.
Yeah. And even after that, when Adam Arkin kind of breaks down and Robin goes to him and he sort of says, this is going to break my heart even saying it. The pig died shortly after we got her because the drug addicts were too rough with her. And even at that moment, you're like, oh, now he's going to snap. Now he's going to enact revenge. No, he just breaks down on the floor and sobs like a broken man. And interestingly, much like Mandy, we don't get the sound of him crying.
Yeah.
But we see the visuals and that's enough. Maybe even more effective.
I think
actually.
So. Again, like not going to spoil that movie or that episode that we did last week, but
he does a cry in it.
Yeah, he does a cry, and the lack of sound really adds to the impact of it. Like I say, you hear Nicolas Cage crying, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not quite the effect that you want it to have, but...
That just broke me. It absolutely destroyed me. I was deconstructed during this film.
You were deconstructed, yeah. You were pretty upset by the end of this movie.
I like racking sobs, not just like a few tears, like racking sobs for 10 minutes.
That's fascinating.
And then he kind of sort of pulls himself together.
Yeah.
Amir offers to take him back, but they have this moment in the diner where, I don't know, Nicolas Cage kind of blames himself almost, because he said, if I'd never went looking for her, in my head, she'd still be alive.
Yeah, but immediately Amir's like, no, she wouldn't be. And he accepts it. He's like, yeah, you're right. No, she wouldn't be. Schrodinger's pig.
Schrodinger. Why can neither of us say that? Schrodinger's pig. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But that kind of instinct to almost blame himself for a second, though.
Yeah, but that's like a perfectly human response, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you're going through those kind of moments of that intense grief, you do think about what actions you took or didn't take and how things might have played out differently. But you've got to forget that to get through it. You've got to let that go as quickly as you possibly can, because it's not healthy and it's incorrect. It's not a correct way of dealing with it. But something else that I really, really like about this, and I said about how it's I think it's criticizing critics, and it's criticizing anyone that tells you how to enjoy art, and anyone that tells you how to do anything ultimately, because like I feel like throughout this film nobody quite understands the bond that Robin has with his pig.
Oh yeah, because he has that conversation with Amir and said, I don't even need her to get the truffles.
Yeah.
And Amir's like, well, why were we doing this then?
Exactly.
And he says, because I love her.
Amir's like, oh, well, this is commerce. This is a business-based decision that we're trying to, I like money, you like tins of beans. Let's get this pig back. But no, he loves the pig.
Yeah. Meanwhile, every vegan in the audience is just like, because she's beautiful. Yeah. Rescue her.
And he says that in the film. He says, no, I love the pig. And no one gets that in this film. They're like, why are you so obsessed with this pig? It's like, well, I love the pig.
Just a commodity to everybody else.
The pig's my friend. Yeah. And they
his,
don't
his
get
only
it.
friend.
It's his only friend, and they don't get it because people, the characters in this movie think that there's a certain way to act. We should be obsessed with perfection. We should be obsessed with the perfect art, money, power, respect, yellow Camaros,
classical music.
And these are the reasons why you should be interested in those things. And actually it's like, no, you just do what you want to do. And that is it. Who like, you don't need to explain yourself to anyone. You enjoy what you enjoy, and that's it. And I think that extends to the relationships in this film as well. And that's something that I really, really liked about this. The fact that he has that bond with the pig. No one gets it, but it's not till the end of the movie that he explains it. He doesn't really. He just says, I love her. I loved her. Or I can't remember whether he uses past tense or present tense, which is probably quite important.
I think present tense, I want to say.
Okay. But it's like everyone's questioning him, why are you going after this pig? And he doesn't ever really answer them because he doesn't need to give an answer, because it's what he's doing. It doesn't involve anyone else. Are you going to give me a lift in your yellow Camaro? Yes or no? That's all I need to know. And I like that. And I love this character in this film. I think it's one of his most interesting characters in terms of complexity and the kind of unwillingness to explain himself and just being as he is. He's just seems very comfortable in his own skin. Even though he's got a manky shirt on and a huge beard
and blood all over his face that he never washes off.
But who cares? Like, if he's happy living like that, then who are we to say, or anyone else to say, that that's wrong? It's not. You do what you like. Don't listen to anyone else.
Well, I get what you're saying, but also I think maybe some of the message is that you need other people sometimes. No man is an island.
I disagree. I'm an island.
Can I visit occasionally?
I'm fucking Ibiza.
Will you accept holiday makers? Like, from the beginning of the film, he pushes everybody away. He has that stereo that he gets batteries for. Amir delivers him batteries for the stereo. Yeah. But he sort of can't bring himself to put the tape in, or he stops it. And it's only at the end, when he gets back to his cabin, that he puts the tape on and we discover it's his wife. singing, like talking to him and then singing. And I think at that point, he's kind of accepted that he has to tackle this grief head on. He can't keep pushing it down. He has to find a way to carry on, but also that he can't necessarily do it alone.
Yeah, that's a good... Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, actually. That's a good reading. I'd forgotten about the tapes, because you get that scene earlier on in a movie where he goes to put the tape on and he switches it off very promptly. And it's clearly something that he's not dealing with.
Yeah.
And perhaps also the pig is an extension of that grief. He's holding on to his past relationship via the pig.
Yeah, and I think
to
also...
a degree.
I think also he's tried to shield himself from further grief by not getting close to other humans and just having this pig friend. And then also, ultimately he realizes that he can't avoid grief that way, because now he's got to deal with two types of grief. Yeah,
I think he's probably learnt that even though he's been living in the forest for 15 years and he has the pig, he can't hide from the hurt.
No,
it's just part of being a human, unfortunately, and you have to deal with it. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that isn't interesting. That's a good character arc, and probably has a lot to do with the urinals. What's the Greek thing?
Urinals.
Uridal?
Eurydice.
Yeah, and you're not looking back on all of that stuff. Like, it's all kind of...
Don't avoid the past just because it's painful.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And always have spare batteries.
Yes, absolutely. That's the ultimate takeaway here. And pigs are great.
Pigs are great. You don't need to tell me. I love pigs. I've always loved pigs. I love it when you go to feed pigs and they sort of look up at you and go, hold their mouth open and drop an apple in their mouth, and they're like, they love it. I fucking love pigs. They are great. So cute. I wish I could have one.
One day.
We'll have a farm.
Ooh.
Well, no, we'll have a place where animals live. Is that also a farm? But we're not gonna...
We won't be doing any actual farming.
No, we're just somewhere.
We'll just have a lot of pets that live outside.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm very sorry that we ended on such a downer of a movie. I think that it is a bit of a downer, but ultimately, like, if you have a different reading of it, it can be quite uplifting in a way. I don't know if that's... I think it is quite an optimistic ending. I mean, obviously it depends who you are and how you're viewing it, but to me it certainly is. I think it's going back to that point that I made earlier about the tough love. It's like, yeah, life's going to be hard. Life's going to be shit. You're going to lose people you love. But we're here. To be human is to feel pain, and it's unavoidable, but you'll get through it. But it's all part of the experience. And if you don't have that, you don't have the good, you don't have the bad. Like, it's all part of the same thing. And you just enjoy it while you're here and appreciate it while you're here. So I do think it's a complex movie. Yeah. And it's probably way more complex than I thought about on first viewing. Me too. Yeah, it's great. I'm glad that it held up on second viewing, because films like that don't always, like, it was such a surprise the first time we saw it. They don't always play out the same way when you know what's going to happen, but it really, really held up. I think I maybe enjoyed it a little bit more the second time round, because I didn't have that expectation. As much as I enjoyed being wrong-footed that first time round, I knew it wasn't that, definitely. So I was able to absorb particularly the first half of the movie a bit more and dig into the relationship between Robin and Amir and the pig and how that first half of the movie kind of plays out. So yeah, I on the one hand I apologise and I regret picking it, because it's difficult. Regret turning me into a sobbing snotty mess. Yeah, it ruined the movie ruined you, and I apologise for that. But it was beautiful. But it's a great movie. And it's a great performance of his to end the season on as well. Yeah, it really is. And I think, I don't know, Cage has so many great performances in his back catalogue. I don't know if there's one that's stronger than this. This was his 100th performance. Was it? Including TV appearances. Okay. 100th. I think this is... there's loads of his that I haven't seen, but honestly, I think this is maybe the strongest dramatic performance I've seen of him that I can think of. I stand to be corrected, but... Would you not consider Mandy to be a dramatic performance then? Oh, I said that last week, didn't I? Yeah, I mean, it's different though, isn't it?
Yeah,
they're different performances.
Absolutely. I stand by the fact that that's my favourite of his performances,
Yeah.
but I can absolutely see why so many people think this is him at his best.
I think favourite is different to best.
Yeah.
My favourite might still be Vampire's Kiss. But yeah, I think maybe dramatically, there's a bunch I haven't seen, Leaving Las Vegas, which I think is what he won the Oscar for.
It was, yeah.
So the critics said that I'm wrong. So, they're right, as with the sort of discussions we've been having in this episode. I haven't seen it, so I can't really judge it. But from what I've seen as a low-key, complex, human, dramatic performance, I think this is up there, definitely.
He should have got an Oscar nod for this.
I think absolutely. I think this absolutely should have had more recognition. I think it was loved. I think anyone that's seen it, I think that I know about anyway, has really praised the movie, as far as I know.
It was on Obama's list of favourite movies of that year.
Oh, and he is the arbiter of
good taste. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, we could have had a Pedro Pascal movie, but we didn't. But we will do perhaps The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Can we have a Nicolas Cage break for a little while?
I mean, you can. I'm probably going to watch The Rock again tonight.
All right, you do you.
Yeah. I'm not bored of Nicolas Cage. I'm
not bored of him. I've just got a fatigue. I've had enough for now.
Yeah. Well, that's fair.
He's a lot. He's an intense actor.
I think he's like my second or third most watched actor of all time on Netflix.
Yeah.
There's Samuel L. Jackson, because he's been in 10,000 movies. And then Nicolas Cage, I think.
I could believe that.
Yeah. But yeah, that brings us to the end of Coming of Cage. And it's been a real journey, hasn't it?
I'm proud that I didn't cry this episode.
Yeah, you did well. But yeah, you'll be pleased to know that we've now reached the end and we're moving on to something else next season.
What is that something else?
Well, it's season 10. And we thought, didn't we? We thought we would do something a little bit different. We always take it in turns to choose seasons for a start.
And we always do 8 films a season.
Yes. So this time we thought, well, why don't we
not do that?
Yeah, tune in to find out in 3 weeks. Yeah, we thought, let's do a slightly longer season. Season 10, so we're going to do 10 episodes. We've chosen a theme together. we agreed on it together, and we've chosen 5 movies each. And the theme is flops.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be an interesting season, because we've pretty much nailed down what the lineup is, which will be announced on Patreon on our free tier in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
But it's not to give too much away, but it's going to be probably mostly bad movies.
You say that. This has been an eye-opener for me, because so many of my favourite movies are on this list.
Yeah.
Apparently I have terrible taste.
Well, and me too. There's some of my favourite movies are on this list.
And some others.
I don't... Have I picked a good movie? I don't know if I have, actually. I think all of mine might be classed as terrible movies, but I love some of them. But yeah, so we'll be back in a few weeks for season 10 flops, 10 episodes. If you want to see the lineup, be on Patreon in a few weeks. Become a free member. Check it out.